I just finished an interview with Adrienne Gerardo, one of our students who is just about done with the program. She is like at the very last little bits. It's been a full year that she's been going through EBI, and her story of transformation is just unbelievable. She just really understands and expresses in her story the power and the depth of the program, and I just really think you're going to get a lot out of this. So let's jump in. First off, Adrienne, thank you for being here and for being open to sharing your story through EBI.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy to. Like I said, it's been transformational for me for sure. So I'm more than happy to chat about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I look forward to hearing. Just to put some context, you just had your last intensive. And so it's been a year, pretty much almost on the nose from when you
Mhm.
started the program. And, you said in your email, you just said it again to me that, this has been a life-changing experience for you. And I wonder if you just want to say a little bit about that. What's changed? What's been
Mm.
life-changing for you?
Oh, yeah. Almost feel like what hasn't changed? It's been, I think for me, I feel so much different than when I first started the program. And I think when I try to think about how I would sum that up, and I mean, it's been a series of just a ton of different mindset shifts. But the biggest thing for me is that I just feel so much more connected um, to myself in a way that I've never been.
Mm,
That's the awareness that the program's created. Like we've spent so much time creating this deep sense of awareness, of connection, vision, practices for that. And yeah, I think that that's for me has been the biggest thing is just developing a really deep sense of trust in myself and my own abilities in a way that I haven't felt before. And it's just been really calming and really regulating for me that I know that early on, just in conversations with you and with Daniel, my mentor, that there were times when I just couldn't even be on the call without being completely dysregulated because that was the state that I lived in always. And I didn't even realize how much work I had to do for myself to
mm,
get to where I could do this kind of work that I've been longing to do for other people. So, you guys talked about that would be that, that half of it would be for ourselves. And, that's been hugely my experience was it's just a huge growing journey for myself to where I'm like, it took a year to get to a place where now I'm like, oh my God, now I feel like I'm ready to bring
mm.
this home.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that you went through that change for yourself and that, you know, this program could provide a context for you to do that. I'm really grateful that you committed to it and put yourself into that and worked through all of those pieces that you needed to work through to get where you are right now. It's hard earned right there. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
you spoke a little bit about um, just like how you were when you started the program and everything, but I'm just wondering if there was anything that you want to say about what initially sparked your interest in nature connected coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So was a I shared this with you obviously before, but such a fun way of coming into the program that my background was in science and then I transitioned over into corporate development, so doing organizational psychology, which I loved. It was all about awareness, getting people to become more self-aware and doing that through Myers-Briggs type work and team building. And I loved that, but I've always been really drawn to nature and some early experiences that I had as a kid, getting to do some outdoor team building kind of things. And so getting into that work, I had such a sense of, wow, this is really powerful stuff. But
Mm,
this outside would just be, even more powerful. And so I left that work to pursue the Knowles course and, and that kind of training. And I got into doing more outdoor based team building and things like that. And then took a break from that for a while when I had my kids and kind of went off on a different track of, learning pretty in depth about um, human development, child development, all of those things, and just how people learn and all things that have tied really beautifully into this program. But what I was really searching for, I ended up doing a coaching type program that wasn't to become a coach, but it was called the coaching way. And so it was bringing coaching skills
mm,
into different things that people were doing. And so for me, I just showed up as I want to learn these skills for my kids and my parenting. And it was it was so powerful that I was like, oh, maybe I want to. It kind of brought me back full circle to where I was like, oh, this is, I want to get back into this kind of work. I want to bring this in, but it always comes back to, I got to do this in nature,
right.
that piece so huge. And that's what I said to you when I looked up, like, oh my gosh, this coaching stuff is so great, but like nature connected coaching, that would be the thing, so that was my exact Google search that led
Yeah.
me to EBI. And I was like, oh, it turns out this is like a thing and someone's doing this. And
That's
yeah,
wonderful that you actually search for nature connected coaching without
yeah,
really knowing what that was or that was even out there.
yeah. And it turns out that you guys had it figured out already. And so I was so thankful to find that. And yeah, all the pieces of reconnecting with Hannah, who was on my Knowles trip 10
Right.
years ago, and all those things. Yeah, so it definitely felt like it was really meant to be, like the
Yeah.
stars were aligning, in the way that I came to it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think that's something that's pretty common with the students is that when they find nature connected coaching, it like resonates in that way where it's like, this is meant to be, and it's really neat to see why that's true for everybody,
Mm, yeah.
and to hear your story like that. Um, is there anything else you want to say about any other goals or challenges that you were facing at that time that you were hoping that this program would help you work through or, resolve?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, the what I had been wanting to do was to bring the work that I was doing in corporate development to more outdoor space. And the way that I envisioned doing that was through like wilderness-based retreats, like destination transformational retreats, where you're bringing people together for meaningful shared experiences. Like I've had those in the past, and I found those to be some of the most transformational experiences, or what I thought. My thoughts on that have shifted since being in this program. But like having a peak experience is one thing, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, so I found this program that I really love that is was all about helping people design really intentional, transformational retreats. But what I found was I felt a little over my head in the program because it was really designed for people who had a business and they were adding retreats to it. So these were people who were coaches and things already. And I got to thinking, like, I don't have, like, I could kind of create these experiences, but I don't feel like I have the tools and the information to fill out the whole thing in the way that I want. And also, the most important piece that I've really learned is, and then how do you help these people integrate this powerful experience into their life? And so that's when I realized that was a missing piece for me. And when I found this program, I knew that this was the missing piece that I was looking for, that I can then take this, and now I have all of this knowledge and all of these tools, and I can bring that back into that vision of wanting to create these experiences.
So, what specific tools did you gain from the program that will be most valuable in your coaching practice?
Yeah, so um, like I shared, the tools, all the individual tools have been hugely helpful. So I feel like I have so many specific things that are really powerful for help for bringing to clients the seven breaths, the seven stairs, things for helping to find this deep inner connection. Wander as a way of connecting with nature and self to find answers rather than really looking outside yourself, these different tools of finding answers within yourself. And I feel like that's been so helpful. And those are the kinds of things that I really want to bring to the clients is my clients is this awareness that, like, yeah, there's a lot of helpful information out there, but everything that we need is really already inside us. And there's these wonderful tools that EBI has provided for accessing that. But what I feel like is the biggest gift of the program is this framework that you have provided that started of foundations of
Mm,
introducing this idea of the ceremony and really um, beautifully filling that in. I felt like the foundations was this framework, that we kind of set up, and then each intensive toolbox module has just been an expanding and a filling in and a deepening of what that really means, and it just provides such a strong, like I said, a framework or a model for looking at how change happens. So it's like on a bigger scale of being able to apply that to a long-term change
mm.
process, then the individual coaching sessions as well as like having this really solid understanding of like this is where we're starting and this is how we're moving through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that to me is just is the is the whole thing of this like really deep understanding of what started out as just a foundation and then built into this really beautiful framework and structure.
Oh, yeah. I'm really glad you see it that way, that it provides you with something really to follow and stand on. And then, to be at where you are right now at the end of this whole program and to be able to really see, like, what you're really doing in each stage of that process with somebody, which we call a ceremony, right? We call that the nature connected coaching ceremony. And just to be able to see, like, you know what is really happening, what you're really talking about and what you're really exploring with your client in each stage of these different ceremonies, really, or stages of that ceremony, really gives you that framework to work with. It's I'm glad you see that. Were there any specific moments or experiences in the program that felt particularly impactful for you?
Yeah, so I have so many different different things. Like I said, I could highlight numerous different instances where you sent us out into nature to empower the vision and deepen our vision and practice these skills and so many different aha moments and just beautiful visions and takeaways. But as I was reflecting on this, the thing that really stood out for me the most was just a few weeks ago. This is, coming to the very end of almost the end of this program, was when we were in our last, not the last intensive, but during one of our intensives, talking about the brain and change, talking about trauma. And we got into this wonderful conversation about um, all of this work. And somehow in that conversation with one of the other students, we were talking about this idea suddenly popped up of realizing that we had been holding on to this idea of I'm okay if you're okay, or
Mm.
I'm okay if my environment is okay. And for me, it felt like the biggest shift to suddenly realize that this deeper need that we talk about, like getting to, this, we identify this issue and what the client really wants, but it really comes back to what is this true deeper need. And I felt like it finally dropped into that for me was this need of I'm okay. Just I'm okay. Regardless of what's
Yeah.
happening around me, that it's not dependent on what's going on with my kids or my client or my house or bigger things out in the world, just a really deep sense of I'm okay. And it was
Mm.
like this aha moment in
Yeah.
that conversation that has just continued to deepened since then and really shape, it really puts everything else from the program into perspective for me. Like, I
That's
don't know, just
amazing.
a beautiful moment. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, just, like a massive paradigm shift of being able to just change your perspective completely. And, you know, I almost like have this memory of you going through that in a way, like I can almost remember like there being conversations where it was very focused around the environment and so forth, and just to see that change that's happened, and it just really looks like you've integrated that into your life. Like it wasn't just a thought, it was like such a strong enough experience that it's like you had something to remember and to remind yourself about. As
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And if it was a really like felt experience, see, that's something that we talk about, a lot in these in the program is it wasn't just like something that you learn. You could say that to someone and they might say, okay, like I said, it seems like a small thing, but when you really feel it and it connects like in a way of like, oh my gosh, I've been living my life. Like this is why things haven't been clicking for me in the way that I
Hmm.
want to finally have that shift internally and to be able to have that awareness inside myself now to notice when I see that happening for other people or to help bring those kind of moments to other people
Mm.
is so huge.
Gosh, I wish that for every student that goes through the program. There could be that depth of self growth. That's just amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure there is. I feel like we've all shared those moments, within the cohorts, like, just of these huge shifts and big moments like that. It's just been a series of these light bulb moments that feel like that. And that one, like I said, felt like it really dropped
Yeah.
into that space. Yeah.
What's it like to be in a cohort?
Um, gosh, I was just actually having this conversation with my husband the other day, saying that it feels so incredibly good and powerful to get to know people, to have this experience with other people where you're sharing in a depth that most people don't. Like you might get to know your spouse or your best friend or something like that in this kind of
Yeah.
way, but maybe not even, that this is
Right.
the kind of stuff that we're digging into where people are really putting it all out there, no matter what topic you bring to discuss. I always remember all roads lead to home. So it's
Yeah.
whatever's really going on for you that you're going to be sharing that with these people. And it wasn't just our cohort that, was the various cohorts that we interacted with along the way. And just absolutely incredible people. I feel like the kind of people who come to this program are already just amazing people who are
They are.
called to do beautiful work, deeply connected with nature, who want to help other people, who are into doing the deep work. So to be able to experience that for a prolonged period of time where we're like dipping in and out, coming back together and watching each other grow was just like it, oh my gosh, just the last day that we were there together sharing the depth of our experience and how we've seen each other grow was just such a beautiful experience to feel really seen, but also to feel like you really know someone else in that way that you could begin to like, as they're starting to get into their stories, you already know what they're, what they're
Yeah, yeah,
experiencing.
and you've developed a relationship with them in some ways where you can like really help facilitate their process. Like, you can kind of step in at sometimes be like, "Hey, you're doing that thing again," right? Or you know,
Seriously, yes. Oh my gosh, that was what had so many good laughs over that.
yeah.
As new people were coming in and doing the practice coaching, and they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, "I'm feeling really good about that." And it just we had a lot of good laughs about like, "Yeah, I've heard that story a few
Right.
times." But I mean, it's beautiful in that way, like not in a,
Yeah,
just in a really beautiful way to be able to share that.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really
Be able to
special.
see the process like that. Yeah.
Yeah, people's journey and unfolding is, yeah, and it makes you realize that like working with people long term, like that's the kind of thing that you're gonna see. So,
Yeah. Wonderful. How have your clients responded to nature connected exercises or practices that you brought into your coaching?
oh, it's been so good. I notice the difference big time when I do sessions in nature versus the Zoom calls. And excuse me, I just want to say I really appreciate the ability to be able to work with people online. And I see that as a great way of, I mean, it's been really helpful in the program as a way of incorporating learning. But when you're working with people out on the land, the way that you can um, just respond to what's happening, whether that's the wind or the sun on
Yeah,
people's face or the animals that are out interacting with hummingbirds. There's been all these different amazing things that have come in and reflected to people what they've needed to hear, what they've needed to see, and they have shared with me that this has been far beyond anything else that they have experienced before. Like, oh
right
yeah, I've
on.
done different kinds of coaching and stuff, but this is really
Yeah,
powerful. And even when I've brought in like little pieces, little practices, the 7 breaths, and just kind of share these little bits with people, just to watch people's shifts around like, oh my gosh, I've never actually tried to smell what it smells like, like, or like tuned into like just one ear before, like just the practice of bringing in that nature awareness.
yeah,
I've People tell me just like, man, that was really cool, and I want to share that with my kids and
yeah.
things like that. Just because it is out of the ordinary of what most people experience, and so it stands out as something really powerful.
Wonderful. Yeah, I remember, for myself too, in coaching people, like these amazing experiences that, you just couldn't even possibly create on your own without nature. There's just no way. And so the
Yeah,
more that like you have those experiences, the more you're like, let's have nature be in the forefront of this because that's where the all those transformations happen is in those interactions. It's really quite amazing once you start to see that about like how little you actually have to do as the coach, but
yeah,
how to open your client up to those interactions, to create that space for those interactions is really what it's all about.
yeah, absolutely. That's And even just in the program, that's been hugely the benefit is being in nature is just so naturally regulating also that
Yeah.
I find that that's really helpful for people when they're in a place when they're feeling overwhelmed or feeling stuck, and to be able to just pause and be with what's around is like what you said, yeah, just a little bit of, you don't even have to guide them into that. It's just getting them to pause, and then nature's doing the work.
That's right. Yeah. Gosh, that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about what you hope to do with this certification that you professionally.
Yeah, so the vision for me is it kind of comes back to why I got into the program in the first place, that I really, in my life, have experienced um, some beautiful transformational moments from having shared experiences with other people, especially out in nature, when you can bring a group of people together to have a growing experience where you're bringing awareness to them, so they're becoming more self-aware, but they're also challenging themselves in some way, some kind of environment that feels uncomfortable. They're being challenged, but then you're there with them to help guide them through that, so that there is a feeling of like stretching but with security and safety, and then bringing it into like a group sharing experience where we're all going through this together, and we're going to break it down and talk about it, and be able to get into those more intimate details that you don't normally just share with people when you're out in daily life. And so I want to be able to facilitate those kinds of experiences for people.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned at the beginning, realizing that just having a beautiful experience is powerful, but when you can work with someone then following that into looking at like what happened there, what awareness did you gain, and what is that telling you about your life and how
Yeah.
you need to be,
Sacred
that's where,
questions.
yeah. Yeah, that's where the work really begins, bringing in the sacred questions, and starting to do the work of now, like, hey, I want to facilitate these experiences for people, and start to get them to realize, like, hey, you noticed something happening, and if you want to take that and learn how to start building upon that to bring that, deeply and powerfully into your life, then that's the kind of coaching work that I want to do with folks, is giving this foundation of this experience, with other people, but then let's take that and continue to build and grow with that, and help people create the kind of shifts that they're looking for. And really how I see myself bringing that is, especially working with parents who are dealing with a lot of pressure and overwhelm just from the way that our modern
Yeah.
society is structured, and living from that space, and recognizing that's where I was for so long. And the friends that I'm around all the time, I see them struggle every day thinking that it's them, that I'm not good enough, I'm doing something wrong, someone else has figured this out. And getting to a place of realizing, like of being regulated, of being in touch with their
Mm,
own wisdom, their sense of I'm okay and I got this, and being able to show up in that way to their parenting, to me is just, it's like the gift that I want to bring into this world. If we could bring this to all parents, is a beautiful tool. Like I see coaching and parenting as like very um, complementary. These are really
yeah.
similar skill sets. And so when you can start to teach people these ways of being for themselves, so that they're not relying on outside experts anymore, where they can start to turn to themselves, they have these tools of turning to nature to regulate, to find answers, to be okay, and then to be able to bring that to their kids and their parenting and their work and whatever it else is they're
Yeah.
doing. That's what I
Love
really focus.
that. It's like, it's like what I hear is that you're set up, to help parents really trust themselves, really trust their deep knowing, and to find that voice inside of themselves, so they're not pulled in 30 different directions, but they know how to really anchor into what's really true for them. And as you said that, I just could feel like such a good reminder for me with my
Mm.
kids right now. I'm like, oh gosh, all the stuff my kids are going through and all the things I'm going through as a parent. That's like, thanks for the reminder, Adrian. Practice what you preach. Get out there.
Gosh, yeah, and it's not easy, but it's such a beautiful tool to be able to come back to consistently. And I mean, and our kids are a beautiful practice. I think you said that to me, at some
Yeah.
point. It's like every day there's an opportunity to practice this, in the way that I show up with my kids. So,
Oh
yeah.
gosh, well, I am really like excited to help you get that out there and build that, so just know that I'm in your corner and I'm here to support you with that because you're absolutely right. I mean, your words of how needed this is in the world is like, that's true. That's truth right there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. I feel that. I feel incredibly supported by the entire program, by everything that you've created, all the wonderful staff that you've brought in, and just the whole thing has been beautifully supportive in, yeah, ways that far exceed my expectations for when I joined the
Oh,
program, for sure.
thank you. Yeah. Well, Adrian, is there anything else that you would like to say? Just imagine somebody watching this and they're thinking about, are they going to do this program or not? Is this the path for me? What is this all about? You can almost put yourself back in your shoes at that time, right?
Yes, yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to that person?
Oh my gosh. Um, no pressure, right? There's
Right.
so many things that I could say, but something that I haven't touched on yet, which is hugely important, I think, to what you bring to the program, that in addition to all of the tools, so there's all of this, the ceremony, the framework, the tools, all of these beautiful things, but for me, what feels like this, what really called me to the program, and when I talked to you, especially, was on that first call, was what you shared with me about where so much of this comes from, this lineage, the tradition of going back to, with Stalking Wolf and Tom Brown Jr. and all the work that you've done and that you bring to the program through that lineage is what makes this truly special, I think, in a way that nothing else provides, because anybody can go to a program and get a coaching framework, but it brings a depth of connection that, not, to be the nature connection, but in a way that is just truly um, honors a beautiful tradition.
Mm,
The I think just the honor and respect that goes into it, to me, has been really beautiful, because it's not just I'm going out and I'm using nature to help me. It hasn't felt like that at all to me. That it's felt like a way of truly bringing in a connection that humans had, for our entire history, and that's lost for a lot of people. And when you bring this back in this beautiful way to help weave that back in such a in-depth way, it was like an awakening, a reminder of this is what humans are really capable of. Some of the stories that you shared about the amazing abilities that people had, in their ability to track and build shelters and fires, and all those pieces were not, those weren't the skills that we were learning in the program, but the way that that
yeah.
was brought into the program, to me, is what really sets this apart from anything else out there. And it's almost hard to explain, but that's
Oh,
just being connected to that in such a like this remembering in this traditional way is really what, yeah, is a really beautiful
Gosh,
piece of the program.
just thank you for seeing that, Adrienne. That's like amazing. That I can't thank you enough for seeing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and thank you for bringing that. I mean, I feel like that's the real gift, is everything that, the wisdom that you've learned that's been, passed down but hard won, and that's integrated in every bit of the program. Like you can really feel it, and yeah, it's powerful.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing this, for sharing all of these amazing stories and just your heartfelt wisdom in this interview.
Yeah,
So,
happy to share. Hope it helps.
yeah, thanks.
Amazing.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the record here.
Alrighty.